Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks and plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming in the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's bet on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing? We are talking Lego Master season finale of season 2, and finally, we get down. The top three duos are here. They are... Man, it's surreal to think we have come this far. I know it's only 12 episodes, but it seemed like it's been like 10 months. It's been forever. I mean, wait, the Olympics, and I took a week off, and then nobody went home the 1 week, and in episode 1, nobody went home. I mean, it's going on and on and on. So I'm curious to see what you guys think of who the winner is and who the two losers are. Not just one, two. I guess technically there'd be more than one loser because there's only one winner. But man, what a finale, huh? What a finale. It was one of those things where I was like, you know, really any one of these three teams, any one of the three could have won. Any of them. In my mind, I have my bias, right? I have my bias. So of course, I'm screaming at the TV like I'm watching a football game. Go! You know who my bias was. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and dive into what the episode was about. Let's talk about the builds, who the winner is, and who the two losers are. So, what'd you think? Well, I thought, oh my God, these builds are exquisite. A lot of cool things. A lot of interesting design ideas behind what they were doing. So, essentially, Amy and Jamie said, hey, the final build, here it is. You guys have 24 hours. 24 hours. Now, it wasn't 24 hours straight, so please don't get it twisted. It was 9 hours, 8 hours, and then 7 hours on the final day. So they had 3 days is what they had. So they had the 24 hours total. Obviously, Fox is not filming the entire 24 hours straight. I mean, that would be almost impossible. Not straight, but I mean the 24 hours. There's way too much editing, way too much footage to pull from. So obviously they're hitting in certain blocks. Like, okay, we're gonna get this or whatever. Anyway, so with that in mind, these builds, they wanted something that it looked one way in the day when the lights are on, and one way when the lights are off. And I gotta say, I was uber impressed by every single one of these. You had Zach and Wayne who stuck to their Asian Chinese heritage, where they really went for that ornate design. They had their dragons that were on there crawling over this building on the outside. I thought that was so cool. It was so well done in the way that it felt, if there was any way they could have put motion to it, it would have been incredible, because I felt like watching this. Now, and Fox only does, we're talking an hour, so you're already talking a 44-minute show because of all the ads. So 44 minutes, we didn't get to see as much as what I would have liked to see. Obviously, they're not going to do a still shot and say, hey, this is what this looks like. But I will say, Fox, and I had a chat with the producer folks, not the producers, the people that, set all this kind of stuff up for the interviews. Maybe next year we do a such and such idea where you go around the build. Like you run a camera around the build so that people can pause their TV or people can actually get a look at the entire thing. I don't know what lens. I'm not a filmographer, so I don't know what that is. So videographer, I guess, not filmographer. Either way. So I was really stoked about their build. Obviously, they're my horse. I chose them. I was like, here we go. We going to win it all. We're going to have the wreath around our neck. We're going to get the roses. We're getting the milk. We're getting the trophy. We're getting the medal. We're getting everything. And, well, boy, their build did not let down. Now, I don't think it was as good as some of the other builds that they have done. So that is something to take into mind, take into thought. Now, you've got archery stuff in there. You've got all kinds of different things from their past. You have kind of like the ninja idea that's going on in there. And you have minifigs. You have brick-built humanoid-type creatures. But you have this giant tiered design with all these floors. And then you have dragons on the outside. And on the inside, you had these little vignettes on each level, which I thought was really neat. So they looked one way in the day, obviously with the light, the studio lights. And then when they shut the lights down, or dim them anyway, and you have the backlighting of this entire thing. And I gotta say, out of all of them that did lighting, I was really impressed by the way that it lit up the entire vignette scene. Now, we'll talk about Mark and Steven and how they did theirs. Theirs was completely different, obviously. But I really like the way that it backlit everything that was in there. It really gave it a different characteristic. And in talking to Zach and Wayne, obviously you'll hear that. But also on the show, they had mentioned, it was to show something different. You were to pick up different things based on the lighting. And I did, and I thought it was really neat. And again, obviously, you've got to pause your TV if you have a DVR, and you're like, oh, what am I looking at here? Hopefully it's not blurry. So hopefully that gets something that's rectified in the future. But I was really impressed by everything that they had put into this. I mean, they continued to tell their story, their Chinese heritage and stuff like that. I really liked the way this was. Plus, it was that cylindrical build. I thought that was really cool. They could have done it round. They did, or they could have done it squarish. They did not do it squarish. It was really, really well done. So let's move on to Mark and Steven. And they did this huge, I forget what they called it, like this forestish Goliath type being that was, I mean, it's incredible. Their scenery is unbelievable. I just cannot get over what this thing represents. It was absolutely beautiful. And you've got this living forest type creature that is on top of this kind of built up waterfallish river type thing that's going between its feet. You've got the greenery, you've got the rocks there, you've got the mushroom and the tree. They looked great. Oh my God, they were fantastic. You've got a little bunny off to the side. I mean, you've got so many different things that are going on here. The staff, oh my God, the staff was cool. So let's look at some of these things. The staff lit up, the eyes lit up, and I was blown away by the water feature lighting. It was something that I had never, ever expected any Lego creator of any kind to do ever in the history of mocking. It was incredible. The water lighting was, we'll get to it. But on the outside, I mean, the browns that they used and the greens and how everything was textured. That is probably the biggest thing that I noticed compared to the other two builds was the texturing. They went above and beyond with their texturing. They really got a bunch. You have studs on some spots, then it's flat, then it's smooth, then it's rounded, then it's squared. They did a bunch of different things to really capture that. And I was sold on it. I thought it was beautiful. I mean, it truly was. It was a beautiful build. And then they turn the lights off. And then your mind just explodes, right? The staff lights up and it's very, very bright. The eyes, they glow that yellow. It was like, I almost felt like it was staring into my soul. I really felt the light coming from that thing through my TV as I was watching it. And then you get to the waterfall, the water area. And I asked them about that in their interview, their exit interview, whatever you want to call it afterwards. All three teams we had an opportunity to interview. So you'll hear that. And what you guys will find out from how that was built will blow your mind. It will absolutely blow your mind in the intricacies that were put into place to be able to accomplish that part of this build. It's incredible. So what happened when the lights went down for the waterfall area? It just kind of glimmered. You had that as if this giant being, this creature was stepping into the water, making it look like it's rippling. Then you had all this other shimmering that was going on. Oh my God. I at the time I was like, how did they do this? And I know they're running low voltage cabling throughout, and they've got all these lights everywhere and stuff like that. I get that. I do. I know how that's done. I used to be a big time electronics technician in past careers. So I know how all that is done, but oh my God, the way they did it was just, I've never seen anything like that. I've seen a ton of mocks, not just at live with at conventions and stuff, just in general, people that put them up on YouTube and Lego ideas and all that kind of stuff. And you see this, it's just like, oh my God, where did this come from? How did you learn how to do this? That is so amazing. So I was smitten by that part of it. The creature was cool. The lighting was what sucked me in even more so. Kind of like with Zach and Wayne with their story with the dragons on the outside and their little vignettes. It's similar to that. So let's move on to the very last pairing, Caleb and Jacob. I mean, I say very last, but Caleb and Jacob, man, they've got some skins on the wall, dude. They did some amazing things. So they created this build. Think of it as an hourglass, because that's pretty much what it was. You had this hourglass build, and the motion that they put into this thing was amazing. It had lighting as well, but you had the lighter side, I guess the calmer, well, I say lighter side, the light side, and then the dark side. Think of it as almost like what is that show where they have the underground and stuff like that? Stranger Things. I couldn't think of it. It's been so long since they have had a new season. Kind of like Stranger Things, except almost kind of reversed because they're not flip-flop on the other side of the ground. However, with that in mind, you had this daylight type scene. You had some minifigs and stuff like that were in there. All this white, all this pearl gold, and the green that was in it. The hourglass itself was built, oh my God, amazingly. I was just fanatical about how cool this looked. It felt very Ninjago-esque of what I had said before, the Castle in the Sky type season going on. I love it. It was so neatly done. And then you move on to the top part of this, which was the upside, I guess you could call it the upside down for reference here. So the upside down, and they have purples, and they have blacks, and they have the magentas, and they have brick-built bats hanging upside down. There's bats everywhere. Not everywhere, but there's bats that are opening their wings and stuff like that and starting to arouse and wake up and do their thing. I was just so impressed by the way that was done. And I mean, the movement on the bottom part for the white part, the daylight part was so amazing with how that thing rotated around. It was more bulbous. Both of them were bulbous because obviously you're thinking the bulbs of an hourglass. You know, you have the top and the bottom, or the reverse side, depending when you flip it. Oh my goodness. I just could not get over how well this was done. The movement that was in it. The light wasn't as great as some of the others, as compared to the other two. It wasn't as brilliant as when I say brilliant, not as like they're dumb, more brilliant of the light wasn't as bright. It wasn't as brilliant. It wasn't so awe inspiring, capturing your attention as much as some of the other two builds were. But my goodness, it really sucked me into what was going on. And at first when they were building it, I'm like, this doesn't quite look right. This seems weird, but they really executed it very well. I had no idea what they were doing at first, but man, they nailed it home. So with that in mind, their build was really cool. I was super impressed. So before we get to who won and who lost, because you probably already know, so if you don't, there are spoilers attached to this, so please be mindful. With that in mind, Amy and Jamie, I found interesting because when you watch a reality show, I'm classify this as a reality show, okay, game show, anything that is kind of live-ish, what happens is you get different cuts and things get spliced together. And throughout the show, and they even mentioned this in their interview as well, how they go from having almost no builds, almost like a complete build. And I noticed with the builds as well, but aside from that, Amy and Jamie, In the beginning, they were wearing their ball gown and the black and white tux going on that Jamie had. And then in between, they didn't have it. And then they get to the end and they have it on again. I was like, what in the hot mess is going on here? Who is editing this? Because it was just kind of crappy. I hate to say. It was not very good. I was not super impressed by the way that was done. So if you don't know, your winner for this year was not Caleb and Jacob. It was Mark and Steven. Zach and Wayne finished runner-up. Oh, man. I went straight to the precipice. I was like, I'm staring down. I'm like, here we go. We jumping in. We getting the gold at the bottom of the river here at the bottom of the lake. We're getting that trophy. Here we come. You ready to go? Oh, just my chest just like my heart just got ripped out of my chest. I'm like, no, what is going on? What is this insanity? And it seemed like forever that Jamie decided to, delay and hold it and make the tension rise. And you're like, oh, just say it, Jamie, before I squeeze it out of you. So I will say, I am not surprised that Mark and Steven won. I am not surprised that Mark and Steven were considered to win. Zach and Wayne, I am surprised that they, considering their body of work, because this wasn't just one build. We had found out this was their entire time on the show was taken into consideration crowning the champion. I was like, dude, what? You really telling me Mark and Steven had more than what Zach and Wayne had? To me, it's a toss-up. All three of the builds were toss-ups. But between Zach and Wayne and Mark and Steven, it was really a true toss-up at the end. So I'm curious to know what Amy and Jamie, what things were they really picking apart? What were you really going into your mind saying, you know what, this could be this? Or they're going to win because of that one time and then this as well. Or maybe they really broke down every single build and they're thinking, this was better than this. Maybe they put them on a board, all three, and they took all their builds and they said, they did this, and they grouped them, right? Maybe they did something like that. Maybe they didn't. Either way, I'm really disappointed to see Zach and Wayne lose. All props to Mark and Steven. And having the interview done with those guys already, they are some of the coolest guys, most laid back guys I've probably ever talked to, and they love to talk. Not as much as Zach and Wayne, which you'll hear. But they were really, I'm happy for them. They are great builders. It doesn't shock me that they won. I think a lot of people picked them as the winner walking into the season. Season 1, it was kind of a toss-up. I think season 1 was like, we're trying something new. Let's see what happens. And the other people from season 1, yes, they had their mark in the community and stuff, but Mark and Steven are really, really well known. Really well known. I don't know so much about Zach and Wayne out in the AFL community and the convention community. Obviously they are now, but past, I don't really know. Caleb and Jacob, hey, like I said, if it comes down to build, it's a toss-up. You could go one way or the other. At day's end, we have our winner, we have our second, we have our third place, and everybody else is last. It doesn't matter whether you finished 4th or 12th. You're done. You're finished, kaput, bye. Whatever is done. So I cannot wait. And here, talking to the two people that run the interviews for Lego Masters, they don't work for Lego Masters. They're a production company. But having talked to them in between guests, I brought up the idea of, why don't we do a Survivor-esque type finale where everything is already shot, it's done. And then they come back at the end of the season, everybody's together, and then they announce the winner then. Everybody live on set. Obviously, the COVID season, they didn't do that. They did it virtually. But that would be fantastic. You have everybody back. You have fans galore. You have screaming families, yelling and cheering. Everybody's going wild and crazy and just nuts. And nobody knows anything. And it's a live finale. I think that would be awesome. And then you do the you do the reunion style show after that. I think that'd be a hit. I mean, this is the same production company that does Big Brother and MasterChef and a host of other shows out there. I think that is something that needs to happen. I really think that is something that needs to happen. Plus the more close-up detailed of the builds. I really think that needs to happen. If I'm going to invest my time in watching something, because we all know time is money, and watching equals ratings, ratings equal money, all that kind of stuff. You already know that. But if I'm going to invest my time into it, give me something back that I can really dig into. I love the stories and all that kind of stuff. And I realize they only have so much time. They have 44 minutes. I get that. But give me a little bit more of the builds. I don't need all the theatrical overproduction stuff of showing me, before the builds begin, the discussion of the builds begin with the judges. I don't need as much as they give. Give me more of the builds. And I know the AFOL community is really not who they're looking at. They're just producing a show. But I think that needs to be in the back of their mind. I really think that is something that needs to be considered moving forward, and something that really needs to be adjusted, because I think it will change things. I don't know what their ratings are. I think it will improve things, honestly. I really do. And I'm not saying pause the camera, everybody. You're going to stare at this image for 10 seconds. No, I'm saying give me a full wraparound. Run that stinking camera around that thing and let me see the entire deal. Let me pick it apart. Let me pause it and rewind it 50 times. Oh, I found these details, because that's here. What you guys probably don't realize, and you've heard it in the interviews. Hopefully you've heard it. What you don't realize is there are so many little details that were captured in the builds that weren't shown on television. And it was one of those things that I was just kind of like, yeah, you're right. Every time one of the cast members that got booted off said it, I was like, yeah, that would have been great to see. That would have been really cool. I would have understood the build a little bit more. Maybe there are references there you don't quite get, but guess what? Caleb and Jacob had one heck of a reference, and nobody was able to see it because they didn't show it. They'll talk about it in the interview, but man, that would have been hilarious. It would have been hilarious to understand it. And if you've been committed to the series and watched it from the get-go, you'd have been like, oh my God, that is so great. What an Easter egg that is in that build. I love it. That was cool. It endears you more to the builders. It creates a more personal connection. Anyway, so congratulations to Mark and Zach. I hope they enjoy all of their loveliness that comes with being crowned Lego Masters champion this time season 2. Anyway, before we get out of here, you're hearing this maybe before the weekend. I will be in Killeen this weekend, Killeen, Texas, for Bricks Killeen. Check it out. I will have a live Instagram going up at some point in time before they let all the crazy wild folks in. We will be doing live shows there. I'm planning on doing 2 again, talking to some different builders. I think there's maybe only 1 or 2 lugs there. Obviously, both from Texas because it's a small show. But check it out. I will put it out on all social medias for you guys to find. If you, whatever podcasting platform you are listening to, or however you listen to it, YouTube, hopefully on iHeart, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, their Spreaker platform, because it's actually pretty good. I really like the way you can find things, or Apple iTunes. Either way, I hope that you guys check it out, whether it be live or after the fact, because there's going to be some cool stuff. I can promise you that. What I've realized is that when you have these smaller conventions, these smaller shows, I don't know if you can really call it a convention, but these smaller shows, there's some really cool things that come out of the woodwork because they're not competing against the Mark and Stevens. And when I say competing, sometimes there are prizes. I mean, there were in Nebraska Brick Days. There are for most of the major conventions. I don't know if there will be here, but they don't really have to be like, oh my God, I'm not going to win this. And maybe that's not the agenda to have that happen, but it's really cool anyway. So 10 to 5 on Saturday, I believe 10 to 4 on Sunday. I will only be there on Saturday. So check out the Saturday show. If you don't catch it live, catch it on all podcasting platforms. Y'all know that by now. So with that said, I'm out of here. I'm sad Lego Masters is going away. We will have the interviews coming up here shortly. There are 3 of them. They are extensive. Zach and Wayne went on for darn near an hour. So I've got some cutting and jiving to do in there. Anyway, hang tight for those. Until next time, I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's bet on it.